I'm grateful for that you all would be here. Make sure that you change your screen name to reflect your role with General Assembly. That is Ruling Elder Commissioner, Teaching Elder Commissioner, YAD, TSAD, and those abbreviations with your last name and your presbytery. Again, tonight, just like in committee, I'm going to ask you to have your video on. We're going to review high-level review of some of the business tonight, some of the business coming to the General Assembly after we hear from Reverend Andy James, who is Stated Clerk for Greater Atlanta Presbytery, and then finally hope to have some time left over for you all to meet by committee. Okay, so if you're going to meet, it's going to be really important that we can see one another's faces. So you may as well just practice. Get used to having your face on screen. Even if you're eating, I don't care if you're eating. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother anyone else. Unless you're driving. If you're driving, don't be on this call anyway. Okay? We'll get you the link to the recording. Okay? Is Andy James with us? Is he back?
I am back, yes.
Yay. Okay, super. Thank you. So tonight, y'all, as I said, we're going to start with parliamentary procedure. Andy James is going to share that with us. And then we're going to do a high level of a business review and breakouts by committee. Since I haven't said it yet tonight, hi, my name is Valerie Young, and I get to serve as your Synod Executive and Stated Clerk for the Synod of South Atlantic. Before I forget, which we should never forget this, but it happens, let's open with prayer. Will you join me? Gracious and loving God, we're grateful for the opportunity to serve and look forward to being in community with so many other commissioners from throughout the PCUSA. Be with us tonight as we meet new people, discover new things, and learn what it means to be called as a commissioner to the 227th General Assembly. Light our way to and through this service in your church. Through the power of the Spirit and by the grace of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Andy, shall I spotlight you, sir? If I can find you. There we go.
Sure. Well, so Valerie, go back one slide, actually, if we can.
Sure.
So one of thank you all for your service, first of all, and for having me as part of the conversation tonight. I have followed Valerie's instructions for the Assembly. So my day job, I'm Stated Clerk of the Presbytery of Greater Atlanta. For the Assembly, I'm Committee Assistant for the Bills and Overtures Committee and Parliamentarian for the Business Referral Committee. So you probably won't see much of me up front, but I'm part of the group who will be helping plan the docket and working with the committee that will be responsible for that. So so I may see some of you on the Bills and Overtures Committee. But want to talk a little bit about the particulars of parliamentary procedure as it relates to General Assembly. You've probably been in a church meeting before. You know what Robert's Rules is. I'm not going to give you the basics of that. What I do want to help you understand is a little bit about the procedures that are unique for the General Assembly. So the one of the most important concepts to understand is an item of business. So people will talk about overtures, and there are definitely overtures to the Assembly, but the Assembly does not just consider overtures. Overtures are one part of the business of the Assembly. So we sometimes talk about the different items of business. Hopefully you will not hear IOB. That usually stays in the back rooms of the Assembly. And we try to not freak people out by talking about that. But there are really kind of three types of IOBs in items of business. The first is that overture from a presbytery or synod. The second is the report of a General Assembly entity or a special committee. So a lot of committees actually may not even consider any overtures. They're focused on reports from General Assembly entities or special committees appointed by previous assemblies. And when I say General Assembly entities, I'm talking about Presbyterian Life and Witness, the new national agency based in Louisville, the Presbyterian Foundation, Board of Pensions, Presbyterian Publishing, Investment and Loan Program. So those are the different entities of the assembly. And then there are commissioners' resolutions, which you can bring. They must be submitted by 24 hours after the assembly convenes. Uh, so those are the three big things about the items of business. Now, when you get to committee, when you go into PC Biz or MyGA and you see your business, that's what you're going to be working on. What do you do with that? Go on to the next slide, Valerie. And th this is where we get into what a committee can do. So, first of all, you'll hear a presentation from the originator of the business to tell you what they're thinking about, where they're coming from. They might have a large report with 4 or 10 different recommendations. And so they'll tell you kind of the origin of all of that. And then it will come to you to figure out what to do with each of those recommendations. And there are about 6 different options. It always, so people who might be more familiar with the assembly, I saw Teresa Howell on here. So Teresa, if I get this wrong, please correct me. Um, but the there are kind of 6 things you can do. First of all, you can move to approve it. It's perfect. It's ready to go. You can approve it as amended or with comment. You start out by approving it and then you amend it. So that and then you can come up with something totally different, an alternate resolution. Say the assembly was going to vote on uh, making Coca-Cola the official beverage of the Presbyterian Church USA. And the alternate resolution could be that the General Assembly says that Presbyterians should not be drinking cola at all, but should only drink water. So that could be an alternate resolution. You could say that it just be completely disapproved. And this is where sometimes, if you've been around the assembly, you might vote yes to vote no. So, but a recommendation to disapprove says you're not ready for this item to go forward. You can disapprove it with comment as well. So you might make a comment to say, we think this is a good idea, but it needs some more work in these areas. The other thing you can do is to answer an item with action on another resolution. So if you've got 4 items of business in your committee dealing with the favorite beverage of the PCUSA, one of them's for Coke, one's for Pepsi, one's, whatever they are, you can act on one of them and then say, all the rest of them, we're going to answer with that one action related to that we've already approved. So that's one of the most important and unique things about parliamentary procedure at the General Assembly. So in your committee process, on the next slide, Valerie, um, you will sort out what that is. So the item is presented, then the committee gets to talk, and you can make a motion. So you'll be using MyGA in the parliamentary toolbox. So when you go into if you're in MyGA, you will see this under meeting tools. And when a meeting is live, you'll be able to ask a question, seek recognition, make a point of order, speak for or against, or make a motion. You have to put any motion in MyGA, whether you want to approve it, disapprove it, refer it, make an amendment. What are the other things you can, whatever you want to do, you've got to put that motion in MyGA and seek recognition. So it's always a 2-part process. Make the text of the motion and then seek recognition to do it. Um, on the next slide, you should have in some of your materials or somewhere that is kind of that standard beloved motion card. I have one sitting on my desk at all times. It's buried, but it's always this bright color so I can find it. Um, But this helps to understand what you need to know about, does a motion to reconsider require a second, that sort of thing. Also, just know your committee and the plenary has parliamentarians available. Your committee, there's a parliamentarian assigned to your committee to help you and the committee leadership do what you want to do. The same happens on the floor in plenary. There are parliamentarians at each microphone, and you'll be able to reach them through the same help desk that everything that tech has. All of those things go into the same box. So reach out, and they will get you to the help you need. When you get in plenary, that's when you can go to that. Just go to the microphone, and you can talk to the person there. So, I think that is the extent of my presentation on this. Valerie, did I miss anything you wanted me to talk about?
I don't think so. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. So that's your parliamentary procedure. As we were preparing to, as I was preparing to do my portion of the, oh, I'm sorry, I really can't stand to look at myself. As I was preparing to do my portion of the review of business, I realized as I'm reading all these different pieces of business, I realized that many of them are using some what is now old language as a result of the unification of the Office of General Assembly and Presbyterian Mission Agency. So I wanted to walk you through a couple of things to help make sure that you are on a level playing field when it comes to reading through the items of business. So you may have, if you haven't been paying attention to what's happening at the larger church, back in 2022, the General Assembly voted to form what you might see as the UC Unification Commission. That commission was elected to unify what was the Presbyterian Mission Agency and the Office of General Assembly. Okay. From that, so you have PMA, OGA, PMA being Presbyterian Mission Agency, OGA, Office of General Assembly, UC, Unification Commission. That commission, once the PMA and the OGA sort of went away, it was replaced by one entity that was referred to for a while as the Interim Unified Agency. That name has now changed to its permanent name, which is Presbyterian Life and Witness. So because that's sort of taken so long, some of the overtures or items of business may have been submitted before that name came out. And so they're not, all of the items of business are not consistent. So I wanted to make sure that you have that information and we can all sort of get on that level playing field. If you have the ability, if you know how to do it, you might want to take a screenshot of this little AI generated picture because it will explain to you how we got from OGA, PMA to the Interim Unified Agency to Presbyterian Life and Witness. Okay? And again, this will be part of the recording. So does anyone have any questions for me or for Andy at this point before we move on to the business? Yeah, Colin.
How often do people screw all this stuff up?
Oh, often.
All the time. All
Sure.
the time. And that's why there's a parliamentarian around. That's why. So behind the scenes with each committee are about 5 people at minimum helping make sure that things are happening well, plus the people who are watching the rest of the assembly. So and then in plenary, it's another, probably there's 20 or 30 people watching it. It gets mucked up all the time, and that's why we're in this together. Total depravity is very real. So yeah,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to get it wrong.
And you will feel every inch of that when you're at the convention center, every bit of that. Yes. Any more questions? And again, I can't necessarily see you if you're moving your hand around. So
Hey,
awesome.
Valerie.
Yes, Adam, sure.
Yes. So this is helpful for me because oftentimes when I look at this stuff, I try to overlay like like a congregational setting. So, and this is helping me even with A Corp too, because that has sometimes
Uh-huh.
been confusing. So if I think about this, in essence, what we did is we took two committees that were doing some work, two session committees. We merged them into one. They're still overseen by the session in essence, and then we have the A Corp, which
Hmm.
almost operates as the trustees, right? They're the state facing side that holds the articles of incorporation. And I know it's not the same for everybody, but in some ways,
It's
if I'm
it's
thinking
close, yeah.
about you've got a group of committees that now have decided to merge to become one group that now oversees a bunch of things, and then you have another group that basically manages like, oh hey, somebody's got a filed nonprofit license, or they got to do all that kind of stuff. And so that way it helps me kind of think about, here's a ministry side, here's a state facing side, and it's not like we don't work together under the same umbrella, but we're not as separate as we used to be. Is that, I know it's not perfect, but is it
Yes.
is it a fair way to kind of help think through how all of these things go together?
I think so. I think that in my estimation anyway, I'm not as close to the work as some, but in my estimation, Presbyterian Life and Witness is working really hard to make that one agency. I mean, technically they are now, but especially with the restructure, surely you all have heard, and if not yet, you will gather through some of the business that there's been major restructure and a reorganization of priorities for Presbyterian Life and Witness. They coming together, they had to restructure some of that. So they're working very hard at making that a single agency. So yeah, I think that's probably pretty fair. Um,
Valerie, I want to clarify one thing I said because
mhm.
I've been checking in with my people who are more in the know than I am. There may or may not be a parliamentarian at each microphone. So, but there will be some place in the plenary hall that you can get assistance from a parliamentarian. So just be on the lookout for where that is. And if you're not sure, just ask. Ask somebody at the microphone. They'll tell you where you need to go. So I want to make sure I clarify my earlier comment. So,
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Um, and one more thing about the slide that's in front of you right now. A lot of what you see, hear, and read about um, in the items of business and in reports to the General Assembly are response to all of these changes happening at the national level. And that, for me, that speaks even more loudly that there is a need for intentional discernment. You are asked to listen well, pray, and in some ways understand what is reaction to change and where God is calling the church to move forward. Joanne, you have a question?
Yes. If you need help from a parliamentarian or you just need help in figuring out your toolbox when we're on the floor of General Assembly, do we get up and go somewhere? Do we raise our hand? Do we raise a chat hand? How do we indicate help? I'm lost.
you'll want to go somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
There will be a place that you'll want to go to that microphone or to the help desk or wherever they tell you. So
they'll tell you.
they'll tell you where you need to go. So,
Okay.
So when you first get there,
mhm.
um, always pay attention to the people at the microphone because they're going to tell you important information. Um, Bill?
In Salt Lake City last time, we also had somebody at a help desk on either side of the room that you could go to. And you also will get you have the opportunity for some help in the MyGA interface in building a motion where somebody who's working back in the background might ask you to go to the desk to ask for some help or help you fix things as it is. Pay attention to the comments about where you can get help. It will definitely be there.
Mm-hmm. Right, thanks.
I have a
Okay,
question.
yes, Robert.
Uh, I've been trying to raise my hand. I go to the React and I select recognize hand gestures, but nothing happens. You've been
Oh,
seeing that?
yeah, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for the raised hand feature, not the reaction, but the raised hand feature.
Where is that?
For me, it's right next to the reaction at the bottom bar.
Might need to update the software. It might be behind a version.
So did you have a question other than that, Robert?
Yeah, I just a general question about slide number, I guess it's slide number 2 and how to react to messages, with the exception of disapprove or disapprove of the statement or answer with another resolution. Did you say you must also approve of resolutions?
That's
I didn't
that's
think
one
I,
of the options
okay.
is to approve. So it's not just automatically approve everything because of the way the assembly handles business.
Right.
You have to respond to each item of business, whether it's to approve it or disapprove it. So that's been the history of how the assembly works. It's not perfectly within Robert's rules, but yeah. And Teresa may be able to say more. She's got her hand raised too. So
Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
I was just going to tell Robert if he puts his cursor over the react symbol, the heart, and clicks, it should bring up raise hand, lower hand, and all the other
Okay.
things.
Thank you very much. I've
yeah,
Mhm.
don't hit
You might have an old laptop like me.
don't hit the
I
little
do.
up arrow. Just click the heart itself.
Yes.
That's I think where maybe you're going sideways.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if I
Got it.
may, a reminder, this is a top level intro to things that you'll also go over with your committees and perhaps in other training opportunities. So you don't have to remember it all tonight.
Okay, as I said, we're going to do some very high level, not high level. We're going to breeze through some of the business for each committee. I have asked a few of our Presbytery stated clerks to take a couple of the committees and talk briefly about each of the committees and the work that is coming before them. So we're just going to go in order of what's on the screen. Jacob DeLees, would you please talk to us about climate and environmental justice?
Sure. I'm Jacob DeLees. I'm the stated clerk for Northeast Georgia Presbytery, and I will be attending the assembly as a resource person for the Advisory Committee on Social Witness Policy, in addition to coming as the stated clerk. I'm just going to go through really quickly. CLJ 01 originates from the Committee on Mission Responsibility through Investment, or MRTI. And it accomplishes 3 tasks. First is to prioritize the response to the climate crisis. Second is to commend the work that MRTI has already been engaged in and directing them to continue that work. And then the third thing would be to list 2 new companies on our divest and prescription list. Those 2 companies would be ConocoPhillips and Duke Energy. The next 3 items of business all originated as overtures from the Presbytery of Susquehanna Valley. The number 2 would, or excuse me, CLJ02 would, oh, hold on, my screen moved. It would essentially affirm all of the actions that the PCUSA and statements that the PCUSA has made previously, and then continue that engagement with all of our MRTI and with our other related entities. CLJ 03 would establish a green future fund. This would be a permanent endowment fund to be held at the Presbyterian Foundation. And it would also create a group of 6 people to design what that fund would look like and how it can be used. That group would then report back to the 228th General Assembly. And then CLJ 04 would essentially be, again, a position statement, but it would give MRTI and the Office of Public Witness some direction in how they engage with companies and with elected leaders. And finally, CLJ 05 originates from the Advisory Committee on Social Witness Policy and is a new policy statement which builds on the work that was done in 2022 and 2024 related to the climate crisis. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Andy James, constitutional interpretation. Thanks, Jacob.
Yep. So I'm not going to do like Jacob did and walk you through particular items. I'm going to try to give you an overview of what the committee is looking at. Because the Constitutional Interpretation Committee is one of those where you're probably going to find that there are topics that are being addressed that may get answered with one item, and then 2 other items get left behind. So there are a number of items coming for constitutional interpretation. I think there are some items that have not yet been loaded into PC Biz and MyGA yet. So probably it's actually one of the last items in this committee. It's last on my list, but it's probably the one that has brought the most attention to this committee, which is an overture related to requiring monogamy for ordained persons in the life of the church. With all of the items in this committee, you'll notice that there is a statement from what's called the Advisory Committee on the Constitution. And anytime there's a matter related to the Book of Order, that group will give you advice so that you can hopefully make sure that your actions are in line with the Book of Order as it stands now, or can make some better connections with it going forward. So that's one of the things you'll see on that particular item as well. So there are a lot of other things coming in the Constitutional Interpretation Committee. There are continuing issues related to administrative leave for those accused of sexual abuse. I think there's 2 or 3 overtures related to that. There are several overtures requesting a review of the changes to the Book of Order that were 24A and C amendments, those amendments that were approved last year to the Foundations of Polity to add gender identity and sexual orientation to categories around which we do not discriminate, and the process for examination of persons for ordered ministry. There are a couple of overtures related to a review of the requirements of the Book of Order for installed pastors to receive health care through the Board of Pensions. There's an overture requesting additional required training for different groups to add to the list of required trainings that is already in the Book of Order. So, and then the business that should be added to this committee is probably related to some authoritative interpretations that have been requested by a couple presbyteries and the Senate, in fact. An authoritative interpretation is an official assembly statement about what the Book of Order means and how it should be interpreted in the life of the church. So I think that ticks the boxes on the Constitutional Interpretation Committee.
Thanks, Andy. I have said I will take financial stewardship and witness. So, again, I'm just going to keep this real, we're zooming by. FIN 01, FIN, F-I-N 01, is the unified budget recommendation. That's a big deal. I think this is maybe only the second time that we've actually had a unified budget. So this is, you'll likely spend quite a bit of time on this piece in committee. FIN 03 relates to mission responsibility through investment and some changes to the divestment strategy, principles, and criteria. FIN 06, I am imagining that there may be quite a bit of conversation around this particular recommendation. I didn't write down who this is by, so you all might need to look that up. But this is requesting a pay equity, specifically and especially among executives of denominational agencies, so that there's quite a disparity between presidents and CEOs of denominational agencies and our pastors. And so I think there's going to be probably a lot of conversation about that. I'm jumping around here, but FIN 04 is the funding model development team's request, essentially for an extension for completion of their experiments. I can speak to this because I serve on that development team, at least through the end of General Assembly. And this team is working on an alternative to per capita as a way of funding the denomination, funding our lives together. There is a report in the Financial Stewardship and Witness from PILP, that is Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program, and the Presbyterian Foundation. There are summary reports in there. FIN 11 shows the foundation requesting that they be directed to do a few things that may or may not be in alignment with a recommendation of the All Agency Review Committee, which actually sits in General Assembly Relations Committee. So this is one reason why it's important for you all to be familiar with all of the business. As I went through General Assembly Relations Committee, I read the All Agencies Review Committee recommendations, and then I came across this and went, oh, they may need to talk to one another. So it's going to be important for you all to keep some of those things in mind. Listen to these overviews and maybe even go back into other committees and do a quick overview of their business to see how and if it relates to the work in your committee. So that is it for Financial Stewardship and Witness. Andy James, General Assembly Operations.
I promise you will not hear from me again after this tonight. So the General Assembly Operations Committee is dealing with kind of the internal functionality of the Assembly itself and some of the Assembly's entities. There are a couple of requests for confirmation of General Assembly entity leadership, the president of the Presbyterian Publishing Corporation, the president of Presbyterian Church USA, a corporation, directors of the New Covenant Trust Company, which was part of the foundation. So there's some of those kinds of affirmations, and then there are certifying bodies that need approval of the General Assembly according to the Book of Order, but that related to certification of Christian educators and musicians and church administrators. So all of that will come to that committee. So it's kind of just an extra set of, or a number of sets of eyes on some of these key pieces of business. This group also looks at potential revisions to the standing rules of the Assembly and the bylaws of the PCUSA A Corporation. I did not mention as well the election of the associate stated clerks, which are folks who work with the stated clerk of the General Assembly and serve alongside her to do certain functions of that work that one person just can't do at the national level. Probably the biggest conversation that happens in this committee is going to be related to I think it's just two items about future General Assemblies. First of all, is a recommendation for the location of the 228th General Assembly in 2028, to recommend San Juan, Puerto Rico for that assembly. But then also, item 2 in this committee is an overture requesting that the General Assembly return to fully in-person assemblies, including exhibit halls, beginning in 2028. As a former member of the Committee on the Office of the General Assembly, who is responsible for some of the matters that led to our current format, I encourage you to pay attention to the financial implications of this item, because they are substantial. The last calculation of this was that it was, if you value an in-person assembly to the point of raising per capita $1 per person, that is the cost. And it will probably be more expensive, not because it's Puerto Rico, but because it's just gotten to be more. So that's what General Assembly operations is up to.
Thanks, Andy. I cannot promise you that you won't hear any more from me tonight. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about General Assembly relationships. And I spoke a little bit about that a few minutes ago, right? GAR02 is on, this is something you're probably going to have some considerable conversation about, is on reinstating, the immigration attorney position. And after reading this particular item of business, I have put myself a little note here to remind you to be sure and read not just the overture or the business piece itself, but read the comments. There are comments from the Unification Commission. There are oftentimes comments from the Advisory Committee on the Constitution, from AC Swap, as Jacob mentioned. There are often comments that will help you in your discernment. I didn't want to forget to say that. GAR03 is the All Agency Review Committee's bringing a deliverance for the Board of Pensions. Surprisingly, I learned something. There wasn't already a deliverance from General Assembly to the Board of Pensions. So this one is going to be really important. GAR04.
Valerie, what's a deliverance?
You want to answer your own question?
No, go ahead.
Because my understanding of a deliverance is basically what it is they're allowed and supposed to do. Defining that. Did I get that right, Andy?
Yes.
Thank you. Woohoo! Score 1. Okay. GAR04 is the All Agency Review Committee bringing recommendations to bring the foundation and the Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program in alignment with other agencies to avoid duplication and competing missions, among other things. So, and I know Gavin Meek served on that All Agency Review. Would you like to speak to that, Gavin?
Yes, I was just going to say a deliverance is a unique legal term, something unique even to the PCUSA. And it just says that there's a special relationship and connection and a unique special authority that the Presbyterian Church USA has with the Board of Pensions. That I'm not an attorney and I don't play one on TV. So that's about as good as I can recall from that. And that is coming from the all agency review team or committee that I served on. That's all that I was going to share.
No, I'm glad. Thank you. Let's see. Also, GAR08 is the Unification Commission's recommendations for Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program changes. What I want to highlight here for you is that the recommendation called FIN 11, GAR 03, GAR 04, and GAR 08 will likely need to be considered in light of one another and reconciled somehow. So if you serve on the General Assembly Relationships Committee, be prepared that you're going to be reading a few different things that pertain to the same entity that might be finding a middle way around some of those things. Again, another reason to be familiar with all of the business. GAR 05 is a new organization for mission for Presbyterian Life and Witness. This is a lot. It's a lot. It's also really important, defining our mission together as Presbyterian Life and Witness. So that's super important. And I'm imagining, because it is a lot, it's a long, I think it's like 35 pages. I'm imagining there'll be a lot of conversation around that in the General Assembly Relationships Committee. And then GAR 09 and 10 involve continuing ecumenical dialogues. Okay, next up is Gender and Sexuality Justice, Jacob Dulise.
Hi. Gen 01 would ask the church to confess and repent and how the church actively participated in the rise of HIV and the AIDS pandemic. And it would direct AC SWAP along with the Advocacy Committee for LGBTQIA plus equity to develop a comprehensive theological framework regarding human sexuality and relationships. This is going to come up again because either this or there's a recommendation from AC SWAP in this committee that may serve as an answer for at least part of Gen 01. Gen 02 comes from Cherokee Presbytery and would declare that the PCUSA supports all individuals, including minors, to have access to all medically necessary evidence-based gender-affirming healthcare. As I said earlier, this is essentially a position statement and would give firm ground for MRTI and for the Office of Public Witness to carry out advocacy on behalf of the church. Gen 03 would amend our definition of what's currently the allegation of sexual abuse. It would change that to misconduct to be in line with a policy statement that was adopted in 2013. This is essentially a more expansive definition of sexual misconduct. Gen 04 comes from the Advocacy Committee for Women and Gender Justice, and it would commend the stated clerk and presbyteries for both adding a question about sexual misconduct allegations to the annual statistical report, and commend presbyteries for answering that. And then it would ask or direct the stated clerk to carry out a one-time denomination-wide survey. Gen 05 also comes from ACWGJ, and this would create a special committee on survivor support and accompaniment. And this committee would report back to the next two assemblies. Gen 06 would add a question to the MDP and PDPs that would allow for congregations and candidates to identify their openness and readiness to call a candidate who identifies as LGBTQIA+. Gen '07 would establish a biennial national queer gathering of Presbyterians and also provide structure for regional gatherings as well. Gen '08 would create, excuse me, would direct Presbyterian Life and Witness in collaboration with ACWI and the Covenant Network and More Light Presbyterians to develop and distribute a voluntary self-audit guide related to LGBTQIA plus welcome. And finally, Beyond Changing Families, Gen '09, that comes from the Advisory Committee on Social Witness Policy. This is one of the pieces from AC SWAP that I was directly involved in writing. And it seeks to replace an older policy, transforming families, with at least 3 new policies, and those are outlined in the recommendation. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate you. Theological Education and Ordination, David Yandel, Stated Clerk for Charleston Atlantic Presbytery. Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Folks, this one with the Committee on Theological Education has, I think, 13 different overtures or items of business. Many of these are simply reports that have to be addressed. A lot of the work that this committee will do is very likely to go through the plenary sessions on the consent agenda. Some of them are simply reports about various schools, universities, seminaries. Others deal with the presidents of those organizations. But there are really 3 of the items of business that need some attention. And for the folks that are not serving on the Committee on Theological Education, my recommendation is that you take a look at '01, '04, and '07. '01 is a recommendation that deals with conflicting ordinations. Ruling elders are ordained to their office within the PCUSA. There has apparently been some difficulty with some elders receiving an ordination by an entity outside of the PCUSA. Does that mean that you would automatically renounce the jurisdiction of the PCUSA? And the example that they deal with is what happens if you've got a ruling elder, a family member wants that elder to participate in the wedding, and somehow he gets an ordination from an entity outside the PCUSA to do that particular thing. Does that force him to renounce the jurisdiction of our denomination? That's one of the items that will take some time and effort. '04 is a request to amend the Book of Order that would allow the ordination of an elder to serve at a presbytery or synod level without having been ordained to serve in the local congregation or the local session. Their description there deals with a situation where you might have an employee of the congregation that would be a very good participant at the level of the presbytery or synod. Those levels would require the individual to be an ordained elder, but because of the potential conflict of interest where that elder would be serving in the church by which he may be employed, that one is a potential problem. So that one's going to take a little bit of effort to unwrap. And the other one that is well worth the effort and time for everybody to review is ORD-07. That's a very comprehensive report from the Ordination Task Force. It provides a whole variety of recommendations that deal with folks that are moving through the inquiry and candidacy process, when exams would occur, when background checks would be necessary, when psychosocial testing would occur. It's a very good summary of what that group has been doing for 2 years. And if you want to look at it at Word 13, that's actually a condensed summary of that. But for the folks that aren't dealing with all of these things, 01, 04, and 07 ought to be the ones that you spend some time considering before you head up to Milwaukee. And now, I'm David Yandel. I'm the stated clerk for Charleston Atlantic Presbytery, and I'll talk about the Committee on Racial Justice. Folks, this one is going to be a challenge. It's got some very heavy-duty items of business. I think it would be well worth everyone's time to take a look at it and consider what the recommendations are and what the justifications are. There are essentially 5 items. 05 is a summary report of what the group had been doing since 2024. That one is fairly easy read. 01 is a recommendation that would establish a special committee on African American ecclesial repair. And that group would be studying what has occurred over the past years, not few years, and make a report back to the 228th General Assembly. So that one, it's got 2 years of work to look at what has occurred and what may need to occur in looking at repair efforts within the African American community. 02 would seek a directive to all of the PCUS agencies to report back to the General Assembly the efforts that those groups had made since 2022 to respond to directives that were given by the 225th General Assembly regarding disparities experienced by Black women and girls. There was a task force that had gone through that, made significant recommendations to the 225th General Assembly, and this item of business asks that each of the PCUS agencies actually provide a report explaining what they have done and what they haven't done. 03 deals with the Liberia Project 180. It's an effort at restorative justice dealing with our involvement with the Presbyterian Church in Liberia. 04 is a special committee on PCUSA and race that recommends a comprehensive tracking system to document what the General Assemblies, since the reunification 4 decades ago, have required related to race, racism, white supremacy, various issues, and to further implement the Matthew 25 objective of eliminating systemic racism. It looks at additional training that may be required. But these 4 items really will cause us to take a hard look at what our denomination has done with the treatment of African Americans within the organization. It has the potential to have to create some divisive discussions, but hopefully the folks that are involved with this will realize that it's really an effort to bring some unity to our group, recognizing that there are vastly different opinions on how folks have been treated, at least for over the 40 years since the reunification, but unfortunately long before that. So my recommendation is that you spend some time with these. There are detailed ideas regarding each of those four, and spend some time thinking about how we can move forward to try and make this a more equitable organization. Valerie, that's all I've got on this one.
David, I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. I did not have any volunteers for reformed identity around the world or reformed identity in the United States. So I'm going to take a shot at that. Just beware that these are very cursory overviews. Reformed identity around the world, RIW01 and RIW07 are overtures to essentially items of business recommending review of the restructuring that changed the way Peace USA does international mission. It's about the mission co-worker kerfluffle, right? Related to that is RIW02, asking for a new missiological statement for global engagement given the new changes. Let's see. And there are additional overtures that essentially pertain to, not to minimize these at all, but pertain to world events, as one might think, reformed identity around the world. I don't want to go through each one of them, but I do encourage you to go through and read them. A lot of them are position statements, important to our life and work together. Reformed identity in the United States. Here in this committee, you will find items of business around Christian nationalism, artificial intelligence, report from the special committee for a new confession, which is likely to bring lots of conversation. I think the other piece of business that is likely to bring lots of conversation is in regards to the basically recreating or reinstating the former Office of Theology and Worship. Again, I want to encourage you all to not just read the overture in the bold print or the underlined stuff, right? Read all of the comments, all the way down to the bottom, all of the things, okay? Thank you all so much. I know that's a lot, and it's really just intended to give you that cursory view. What I'd like to do now is I want to put you all in breakout groups by committee. A couple of things for you to remember, that next week, GA Meeting Services staff will meet with us, and they're going to run a mock meeting with you online through My GA to help familiarize you with the meeting tools. In that meeting, it won't just be us. It won't just be commissioners from the Synod of South Atlantic. We will be joined by GA commissioners from our neighbor, Synod of Mid-Atlantic. So it's going to be a big gathering, a big Zoom call. Don't forget to finish your homework. If you haven't already, complete the required training in My GA before we gather on Monday the 18th at 7 o'clock.
By that you
I'm sorry?
You mean complete all the items in the preparations tab?
Yes, that's
by
what I'm
GA
talking about.
page.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Did you have a question?
I've already done that, but when I press on it, nothing comes up, so. I just wondering.
Okay, but you've done it, so you're
Yes,
good to
I
go.
have.
There is a question in the chat.
And that's why I raised my hand.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
I'm willing to take a stab at it if it's all right. Recommendations for your capital reading it as you look in My GA and you see stuff that's really long. If you click on the link at the top of that item of business, it opens in a new browser window and there's a print button. And if your computer will let you print to PDF or some other form, it can be much easier to read than the infinite scrolling in PC Biz. Can be much easier that way. For example, the committee I'm on, somebody clicked that button in our breakout and it came out as 26 pages. And it's so much easier to go back and forth if you make it a separate document in preparation. The most important stuff for you, of course, is your own committee's business. But look around and see what other catches your eye as something you have particular interest in. You're going to end up voting on all of them pretty much in some way, but some of them will matter more to you than others, just by reading the titles and the start part of it.
I think one of the most important things when it comes to managing how you prepare after your between committee meetings and the actual gathering in Milwaukee. One of the most important things for you to manage that time is going to be take a look at the docket day to day, know when those committees are coming up and review the recommendations from committee before you get to the plenary. It doesn't necessarily have to be read before you get to Milwaukee. It would be great if you could, but that would be really difficult. Joanne Saizu. Hey, Joanne.
Hey, Bill, will you say again about opening an item of business and saving it as a PDF?
So if you're looking at the MyGA interface and you open an item of business, there's a web link on the left side.
IOB link?
Yeah, I guess. I don't have that open at the moment. Give me
okay.
Back to it. Too many windows on my desktop.
Yes. Okay.
And if you click on the IOB link, it will open that item in its own separate window.
This right here. If you can see my screen.
Yep.
You click on that, it opens a new browser with just that item.
It also turns out that several of the items, the word wrap is weird on and may not fit on your screen unless you click that button and open it as standalone. So that will also help for that. I've sent a note to GA Help Me about the word wrap being weird in a bunch of the items. But that way you can view it just by clicking that link and opening it separately can make it a lot easier.
Thank you.
Whether you print
Thanks, Bill. Robin?
Hey, just one helpful hint. There are friends, commissioner friends from your own presbytery who are serving on other committees. Remember that you can use them as subject matter experts as you move along.
That's a great reminder. Thanks, Robin. John Rule, you have a question?
Yeah, I am unable, maybe what she just said will help me, but I am not able to get on preparations to do my trainings.
You will need to contact the help desk. Do you have the email address for that, Bill? Could you pop that in the chat? Thank you. We'll try and get you some help.
Thank you. Yeah, when I click on the tab, it says pop up block. So maybe I need to do some.
Oh yeah, you need to fix that on your own computer.
Yeah. Okay.
The chat wanted to disappear. Okay.
The technical help at GA is very, very good.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. So I put in the chat, ga.helpme@pcusa.org.
Okay. Well, we've already been answering questions. David Yandel.
I don't know whether this still applies this year, but 2 years ago, it was told us that if you're using Google Chrome, you will have a much better interface with what's going on than some of the other browsers.
Mm.
And so, John, your problem might be the browser that you're using. Try going through Google Chrome. That might give you some benefit.
And I had something that didn't work without turning off my VPN recently.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Thanks, David. Linda Lovins.
Thank you. Just as a heads up, it is a good idea to check your listing in the committee. When I looked at my listing last week in Finance Committee, I discovered that I wasn't from the same presbytery anymore. So I got in touch with the help desk. They're absolutely wonderful, and went beyond what it was I was asking them to check. And they not only checked that mine got corrected, but they also checked the other people from the presbytery to make sure theirs were correct as well. So they're a great resource and they're pretty quick.
Yeah. Thank you, Linda.
Sure.
Joanne.
In our committee, there was a mention that sometimes you are asked to look at a paper from a previous assembly because it's a basis for some of the things that are coming out. Could y'all speak so that all people on their committees would know how you access whatever that paper is that you need to get to?
Assuming it went to a previous General Assembly, you can access that from my GA. Let's go back to, business. If you know which GA it came from, sorry, I'm having trouble moving my, there we go. If you know which GA it came from, you can select a different General Assembly and do a full search with keywords and things like that here.
Okay.
So that's where you would find that.
And sometimes they're added already as direct links in the item of business when you're reviewing it with you in your committee. And some committees will add on the resources tab in the committees some of the reports that they know they want everybody to have available. It'll be available in your committee folders.
David Yandel?
Joanne, on the racial justice side of things, several of the items of business refer to earlier actions by general assemblies, and there are links there that can get you to those documents so that you can actually see what is being, when you're asked to respond to something that had been done before, you can find it there in the link.
There's no hiding the ball in this. We try so hard to make it that there's even more than one way, if possible, to find stuff, so nobody can end up with, I never just could find it. I just couldn't find it.
So again, we'll gather again next Monday for the My GA training for the meeting tools. We will be joined by our siblings from Synod of Mid-Atlantic. Big meeting, yay. Where you'll learn all that stuff, the things that I can't answer for you, of course. If you have any questions between now and then, you're welcome to email me. Email your Presbytery State Clerks. They may be able to help. If it's related to the technology of my GA, how do I get into my account? How do I find those things out? Email them, or don't be surprised if we don't direct you to them, but we're happy to give it a shot, okay? Let's see. David Yandel, would you be willing to pray us out, sir?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Our Heavenly Father, we gathered this evening to prepare for the very important business of the General Assembly. We ask for your continued guidance through this process. that as we all move through this, we realize that it is not our individual beliefs, our individual preferences that are at stake, but they are our efforts to discern your will for our denomination. We ask for your continued blessing on these folks who have committed so much time and effort to performing their tasks. Give them strength, give them humility, give them a little bit of humor. It goes a long way during this process. We ask for your ongoing blessing for those that will be traveling to Milwaukee. And until we can meet again, may you hold us in the palm of your hand. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everyone. And remember, if you haven't already, do that new registration for the Synod lunch on Tuesday. If you have questions, let me know. Have a blessed night.